Restricted.
Restricted.
And leaked.
And leaked. Area 51. Bob Lazar.
Yeah. Secrets. Stay tuned.
Oh, right. All right, we're going to get right into the weeds here with Lazar's claims about flying saucers at Area 51. So when he claimed to have worked there, he said there were 9 alien aircrafts being held and studied at the base. In terms of what these alien crafts were being used for, more detail on that in a bit, but basically they were reverse engineering the alien technology. In terms of what these alien aircrafts looked like, Lazar described them as looking completely different from one another. Some of them he only got a quick glimpse of and were too far away to make out proper details, but a couple really stood out to him, and one he referred to as the Jello mold, describing it looking like, quote, your classic Jello mold with the ripples on the sides of it. One he saw looked more like a flat disc, and part of it was damaged. He figured maybe researchers had been maybe testing whether or not their weapons could penetrate it, or it could have just crashed or been shot down initially. And most of his research was happening at Area S4. But let's go to Hannah for more info on that.
All right, thanks, James. Unless you're living under a rock, I'm positive you have heard about Area 51, otherwise you probably wouldn't have clicked on this video. But do you know about Area S4? Well, neither did most people until Bob Lazar decided he was sick of the secrets and decided to tell the world. According to him, Area S4 is a secret base located in Nevada near its better-known counterpart, Area 51. So, why the super secret base connected to an already pretty secret base? Well, aliens. Alien spaceships, alien intel, alien technology, antimatter reactors, and Moscovium, also known as Element 151. More on that later. But Area S4 was aggressively denied by the government, who even went so far as to say that Bob Lazar never worked at the Area 51 base in the first place. But here's the thing. At one time, they had also said that there was no Area 51 base, and that they weren't big brothering us either. So in this case, I'm thinking I might be inclined to believe Bob for this one.
Now, Bob Lazar also gave vivid descriptions of the technology that was used to gain access into S4, hand scanners. Now, hand scanning tech may not seem all that impressive to us these days, but keep in mind, he was working at Area 51, or claimed to, in the late 80s, so this was pretty advanced technology for the time. If this is true, you can only imagine some of the futuristic tech they could have over there now. According to Bob Lazar, the security system at the S4 facility involved a unique and advanced hand scanning process. When you'd come up to secure areas, you'd be required to undergo a biometric scan using a hand scanning device. Lazar described this device as a very sophisticated piece of tech that scanned the unique patterns and features of the hand to grant access. He'd place his hand on a scanning surface, and the device would analyze all the specific contours and lines on the hand. The security measure was part of the stringent protocols that were in place to control access to all the extraterrestrial technology housed at S4. But now, back to Hannah.
Next up, the Roswell Crash. Now, while Bob Lazar was not the first person to discuss a UFO crash landing in Roswell, New Mexico, he is the first person who has also claimed to have worked on a secret government base to discuss it. So, what is the Roswell Crash? Well, it's an event that took place in 1947. A local farmer discovered what appeared to be a flying saucer crash landed in his backyard. The military was pretty quick to collect the debris. Initially, they were brought to a nearby base, but soon it was leaked that the specimen was sent to other bases in Texas and Ohio for further testing, saying that what had actually landed on the farmer's land was nothing more than a weather balloon. So why did they send it to so many testing facilities? Okay, what's even weirder is that 50 years after the incident, the Air Force released a report claiming that the wreckage was actually part of an espionage mission. Bob Lazar claimed that the whole thing was a poorly planned cover-up, and that the strange events that took place in the area after the crash were due to the fact that what had actually been collected was nothing less than an alien spacecraft. Seems like a lot of lying going on from the government there. They keep changing their story. I'm sure in another 50 years they'll tell us what it actually was.
All right, next up we have Bob Lazar's description of briefing documents. So we've already covered, and we'll talk more about the alien aircrafts seen at the facility, but what about their origin? Does anyone know where these things came from? Well, according to Lazar, the government did have quite a bit of information on these alien beings, and this info was shared with him and other workers in briefing documents. They were part of a briefing that was provided to personnel working on the classified projects at S4. Lazar described the briefing documents as these detailed manuscripts that covered this whole range of topics related to the alleged extraterrestrial presence. They contained info about the history of these alien beings, their technology, and the reasons for their interactions with Earth.
So, in the beginning, James did mention the 9 spacecrafts being examined in Area 51, but furthermore, over at Base S4, it appears, according to Lazar, that they were actually able to figure out exactly how one of the vessels runs. And apparently, it's on Moscovia, aka element 115, or 115. The element supposedly first became known in 2003 after it was synthesized by a team of Russian and American scientists at a joint institute for nuclear research in Russia, although Lazar claims to have seen the element at the S4 base in the 1980s. So, what is element 115? Well, it's a super heavy radioactive element. By bombarding the atoms of element americium, 243 with the ions of calcium 48. Hopefully I pronounced those somewhat correctly. Obviously, I don't recommend trying this at home. As I said, the element is radioactive, and also you probably can't do it at home unless you have some kind of $1,000,000 lab stashed away in your basement. Anyways, I think that I do believe Lazar, because if anything's gonna power an alien spaceship, it's probably gonna be something heavy and radioactive. Back to you, James.
Now, aside from all the alien technology stuff and the inner workings of Area 51, there's another interesting story Bob Lazar has shared about his time working at the base, and that's that his phone needed to be tapped. The higher-ups needed to be able to listen in on Lazar's phone to help make sure he wasn't sharing any sensitive information over the phone, but also to help get a sense of his home life. Lazar wasn't allowed to share any info with anyone, of course, including his wife. She was completely in the dark about what he was doing day to day, and she began to think that he was having an affair. And then she started having an affair. The higher-ups at Area 51 knew this because they'd been listening in on his home phone, but Lazar had no idea. One day he came into work but was stopped from coming in. Then in the days that followed, he started noticing that he was being followed. He found out after the fact that they wanted to make sure Lazar wasn't going off the deep end due to marital problems, and that he'd be stable enough to continue his work at the base.
So, Lazar saw the base, and he saw the spacecraft, and he saw what powers it. And then, apparently, he saw military personnel reverse engineer it. Honestly, I don't know why they don't just release this information publicly. I mean, the Pentagon released a bunch of UFO footage, and we're supposed to believe that the best they can do is capture it on video? Like, isn't the United States supposed to have the most powerful military in the world or something? I'm just saying, it might make them look better and smarter and more capable if they just said, yeah, we found a spaceship and it's ours now. But I guess you guys aren't here to listen to me rant about the pointlessness of gatekeeping UFOs. So, Lazar claims that by dissecting one of the vessels on Base S4, the government was able to figure out how to build one themselves. Not only that, but he was actually one of the engineers who helped them do it. He also claims that the team used anti-gravity and antimatter technology while crafting the ship, and he had a front row seat to its initial launch.
Thank you, Hannah, and now I'm going to talk more about that launch. So because they knew how these vessels ran, the logical next step was to try taking one for a spin. Lazar described being called out to observe an aerial test of the spacecraft that he'd been helping to work on, and personnel were communicating with someone in the craft who was going to be piloting it. He described the craft as being very quiet, almost completely silent. On initial takeoff, it emitted a blue glowing discharge, making kind of a hissing sound, but once in the air, it just hovered silently. Then the craft did some simple maneuvers, moving around left to right in the air, before it lightly landing back on the ground. Lazar was also told that because traffic in the surrounding area was apparently lowest on Wednesdays, that's when the more impressive flight tests took place. This is where they'd actually take the craft out and fly it higher over the test site and do more impressive maneuvers with it.
So, if Bob Lazar's claims turn out to be true, which they probably will, he will become one of the biggest United States whistleblowers to date, much like Edward Snowden, who revealed the magnitude of government surveillance back in May of 2013. But now that the UFO cat seems to be out of the bag, Lazar has begun to fear for his life. In an interview with 8 News Now, Lazar revealed that the only reason he chose to speak with the news channel was because he believed the government was after him, and he felt that he needed to be in the public eye to ensure his safety. This is the same reason that he claims to have produced his 2018 documentary Bob Lazar, Area 51 and Flying Saucers. It's a very direct name, straight to the point. I like it. Lazar claimed that unfavorable things had started happening in his life after revealing the secrets of S4, which he did because he believed that by withholding the information regarding the existence of UFOs and alien intelligence, while many people have backed Lazar's story, with some even claiming to have witnessed the events that took place on the base as well, no one has garnered the same amount of popularity and scrutiny as Lazar, who has had all his credentials wiped from online databases and has been condemned and deemed as a liar by the United States military, who claimed that not only has Lazar never set foot on the base S4, but also that S4 doesn't even exist. But again, the military is known to lie, so let me know in the comments who you believe.
All right, let's do a quick comment shout out.
All right, up first we have at Dax Leon. I hope I am saying that right. He said, Hannah rocks with 3 exclamation points. Thank you so much. You also rock.
You do rock. Yeah!
Woo!
Don't I rock?
Yeah,
I
someone
rock
give
too.
James some love in the comments, you guys.
All right, this one's by Polyhex Gaming. If I got hit by a radioactive shark, would I become Shark Man? I think you would become dead. But you know what? Give it a try.
Don't listen to James, you guys. Don't. We've been your hosts.
All right, we've been your host. I'm James.
I'm Hannah.
And we'll see you next time.
See ya.